Hey.
Really, Taylor, disease commonly known as the Black Death came about. It killed off at least 1/3 of Europe's population and had a 78% mortality rate. That's like if Europe was everyone in Bloomington normal, almost all of normal would be just wiped out. Can you imagine, like, after all the graves have been used up, they just had to dig big holes and throw all the bodies in them? Can you imagine how bad that smelled? It would have been horrible. But why did it have such a high mortality rate? Is because it was also highly contagious. A simple cough or like sneezing around people, even coming into contact with them, could spread the disease. And because people knew so little about how it spread, they didn't know how much of an effect they had on other people. And I think this applies today, like, we don't know how much of an effect we have on other people when we participate in worship. So, let's pray. Dear Lord, I pray that the words coming out of my mouth right now would be glorifying to you, and you would get my message across effectively and how I want people to hear it. It's in your name I pray, amen. If you flip to 2 Samuel 6, 16 through 23, you'll see the ark returning back to Israel with like all the people just giving offerings and they're praising, and it's awesome. And well, now you're thinking, well, where's the ark returning from? Well, if you flip back to 1 Samuel 4, you'll see the Israelites going out into battle against the Philistines, and they really want to win because the day earlier they had lost, so they take the ark out with them. Well, they ended up getting their butts kicked, and it really goes to great lengths in there to describe just how bad it was. I mean, they got whipped. And so the Philistines ended up capturing the ark and bringing it back to their homeland. But every city that the ark went to, it would cause plagues of tumors and rats, which we actually think might be the first recorded outbreak of the plague. Kind of just food for thought. But so after the ark had gone through like a little over 5 Philistine cities, they decided like, whoa, it's the ark that's causing all these things. Let's give it back. Which brings us to where we're at now. Anyway, while the ark is entering through the gates of Jerusalem, David's wife Michal, who is also Saul's daughter, sees him dancing in front of it in nothing but an ephod. And he's dancing like a fool. What an ephod is, it's like a ceremonial undergarment that people would wear for special occasions and such. Like in today's terms, that'd be like if you went into Walmart and just like took off all your clothes and started dancing in your underwear, praising God in front of everyone. It'd be ridiculous. So, yeah, David's wife sees him, and it says that she despised him in her heart. And later that night we read, when David returned home to bless his household, Michal, daughter of Saul, came out to meet him and said, "How the king of Israel has distinguished himself today, disrobing in the sight of slave girls like any vulgar fellow would." And this is so cool what David says back to her. He says, "It was before the Lord who chose me rather than your father or anyone from this house when he appointed me ruler over the Lord's people Israel. I will celebrate before the Lord, and I will become even more dignified than this. I will be humiliated in my own eyes, but these slave girls you spoke of, I will be held in high honor." See, David didn't care what other people thought about him. He was just happy that the Lord had blessed him in bringing the ark back. If you flip to Hebrews 12:28, it says, get there first. It says that, "Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful and so worship God acceptably with reverence and awe, for our God is an all-consuming fire." And David realized this. He knew what that was, and he was going to worship honestly because of this. So, have you guys, I know you've all been there, you've been sitting in your chair at school, and the teacher is just, he's writing stuff up on the board, and talking, and you know that everyone else is just like off in their own little world, talking to their friends. They don't care really what the teacher is saying, and then the teacher just turns around and is like, "Next person I catch talking or not paying attention, get a detention." Everyone's just standing like, pay attention. And then the people who were paying attention are like, where'd that come from? But anyway, that does apply to worship, in the fact that if you are worshiping honestly, people are going to notice you, just like they notice the teacher when he threatened them. And so, like, if you're in chapel and you see people jumping up and down, getting all crazy for God, did you notice them? And if you do, what's your reaction going to be? This like brings me to my second point. It says that it's, when you worship God honestly, people are going to take two different approaches to how you worship. The first approach will be like Michal in our text. She saw David and she thought he was a freak because of what he was doing. She didn't want to worship at all like he was. Unfortunately, this is the approach that most people today are going to take, because in our culture today, people have this mindset where like they're afraid that everyone's watching them. So if they do something stupid or what they feel is stupid, that everyone's going to like start spreading rumors about them. Oh, look at that guy, he's such a freak. Or what did that person do? That's stupid. And so they even if they want to worship, they're all like afraid. They just don't want to do anything. So nothing usually happens, even if they want to. As opposed to like if you go to a congregation or a camp where not many people know each other, the whole place goes crazy. It's ridiculous. I went to a junior high Christian conference up in Timberley, Wisconsin with the worship team this year. And there were like 250 kids from like 3 different states and like 25 different schools. It was awesome. And let me tell you, when you stick that many junior hires in a room with a worship team and they start playing, it goes berserk. People start like standing on other people's shoulders and they're like praising. They're like both jumping up, everyone's up jumping up and down. It's ridiculous. It's great. But the reason for that is because people aren't worried about what other people think of them, because they're like, he's from a different state. I'll probably never see him again. I'm going to worship. And so they all start doing that. It's just awesome. As opposed to somewhere like our school where that doesn't usually happen. The second approach is people are going to start joining in, which you might not think. But there's another mindset in our culture today. It's if someone takes the mic or if someone takes a stand and starts like breaking the mold to like something different, all the people who wanted to do that before but were too afraid to start following them, because they're like, well, they're doing it, so now it's not as weird as if I do it, and nobody will start spreading rumors. And so people, like usually it's like this one person who realizes that Christ is more important than what anyone else thinks about them, and they start jumping up and down, and then you see like the people around them start going nuts, and it's really contagious. It's what it is. And everyone starts just going nuts. And the person like this in our text is David. Took off all of his clothes, except for the ephod, started jumping up and down in front of people. Now, most people didn't take off their clothes, but they all started giving burnt offerings, and they were all just happy for what God had done to them. So, now I bet you're thinking this. Well, I'm not the person who likes to jump up and down. I'm more of a calm person. And that's fine, as long as you're worshiping honestly. So if you flip to John 4:23, it says, yet a time, it's Jesus talking, it says, yet a time is coming and has now come, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. When he says worship in spirit and truth, he's not saying like, oh, or he's not saying like be a God's cheerleader. He doesn't mean that. He's saying know why you're worshiping God and care about the fact that you are. Don't let other people distract you and stuff. You just got to worship honestly. And those are the people that the Father seeks. So, now I've shown you both sides of the story. You've seen Michal's side. She didn't worship at all. And you've seen David's side. Worship about as honest as it can get. I just want to ask you, which person are you?